What's the hubbub? One rumor that's piquing my interest is that James Gunn wants to move quickly on Lobo after Jason Momoa's debut. Nothing has been officially announced, but it would make sense. Gunn has said for years that Momoa was perfect for Lobo, and Momoa has repeatedly talked about wanting to play the character. Another rumor is that Momoa wants a Deadpool-style tone if Lobo gets his own movie. Recently, Ryan Reynolds mentioned there is more Deadpool to come, by the way, as covered by John Campea going over the Hollywood Reporter account of this.
He was taking questions, and turns out that he said, yes, he is indeed working on another Deadpool movie. However, I think people are going to have to put some asterisks beside that. This is what they wrote over at the Hollywood Reporter. It looks like Ryan Reynolds will be putting the Deadpool suit on once again. The actor confirmed during a recent appearance at Fanatics Fest 2026 that another Deadpool movie is coming, which would follow the box office success of 2024's Deadpool and Wolverine. This is what Reynolds said. There's a few really deep cuts that I think are missing behind the movies, and I think there's a few deep cuts missing from some of the comics. There's certainly some stuff that, I love Fabian. I never know how to say Fabian's last name. Nicieza, co-creator of Deadpool, wrote that is incredible. Jerry Duggan, who was a friend, was an incredible comic writer. Reynolds said on stage via video shared on X, there's stuff upcoming. There's eventually, remotely another Deadpool film. It's going to be great.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean James Gunn and Jason are full-on copying Deadpool, but it makes sense, as leaning into an R rating which he confirmed is required, or he won't do a solo version, the over-the-top violence, dark humor, and maybe even a little fourth wall breaking is a large draw to what makes Deadpool work, and Lobo has some similarities on the DC side of things. Some of this has been confirmed behind the scenes, and it lines up with how Lobo has been portrayed in some comics and with Momoa's comments about not wanting to tone the character down. It also makes sense from DC's perspective. If Lobo is a hit, James Gunn has another major character who can headline movies, appear in team-ups, and expand the DCU beyond Superman and Batman. Some fans have also speculated that Warner Brothers wants to keep Momoa in the DC family long-term, especially with ongoing industry changes and corporate consolidation rumors involving Paramount and Skydance. There's no evidence those business developments are directly influencing DC's plans, but keeping one of Hollywood's biggest action stars in the franchise would be a logical long-term move if Lobo connects with audiences. The only question is if his Supergirl debut helped the case for it.
He's an immortal with a god complex, killed off his entire planet. Not a fun guy. Hey.
3 more of whatever you call that shit.
The box office certainly did not, yet he was well received. There's a lot surrounding Supergirl to suggest the perfectly bad storm formed at the worst time, and this too shall pass. Supergirl faced false labels, but does that impact what happens with Lobo and the DCU? Cinema Blend did a great nuanced article regarding the Supergirl movie hatred out there by some true nutjobs. The move to digital was announced late last week and comes almost exactly 1 month after the DCU movie's initial release in theaters. At the time of writing, Supergirl has grossed just over $124 million globally. Let's get into it, and I'll share my reaction. It states, "What is going on right now? Seriously, what is going on? I can't navigate my browser anywhere on the internet without stumbling into 5 takes about how Supergirl is hot trash in a cape. The weird thing, though, is that I've seen Supergirl, and it's not hot trash in a cape. It's just the latest mediocre superhero movie in a long line of mostly mediocre superhero movies that we've gotten in the last 5 years. So, why are we all acting like this one is uniquely problematic and offensive? I saw Supergirl like 2 weeks ago at a screening in St. Louis that was filled with like 90% randoms and 10% press. I had a pretty good time. My wife had a pretty good time. A co-worker I went with and his buddy both had pretty good times. All of us thought it was a nice enough way to spend less than a couple hours. I didn't have individual conversations with everyone else in the crowd, but their general reactions seemed to match our feelings too. Everyone seemed to stay engaged. They laughed moderately at most of the jokes, leaned forward in their seats at the appropriate times, and the bits of conversations I picked up leaving the theater were all blandly positive. It was like we all collectively gave it a weak thumbs up. On my way home, before I started driving, I texted my buddy, who is a big superhero fan. This is the exact copy of the message I sent him. Just saw Supergirl. It's nice enough. Millie is good. Momoa is having a ton of fun. Story is bland. Nothing special. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to try and get in the heads of other people, but I will say that everyone I know who has seen the movie in real life that didn't go in with an obvious agenda thought it was fine enough. It's definitely not The Dark Knight or even Avengers 1. It's a lot closer to something like Ant-Man and the Wasp, but instead of people talking about it like it's Ant-Man and the Wasp, they're talking about it like it's Superman 4 or Ghost Rider 2. It's not. Don't listen to the people telling you it is. The truth is, Supergirl is fine enough. It's the latest mediocre superhero movie in a long line of mostly mediocre superhero movies, and while that's not ideal, it's better than what you've been hearing. End of article quotes. See folks, this is where some accused that I'm glazing, but that's really not the case. The best social media post I read stated, at its worst the movie is average to quite good. Now does that deserve to make $1 billion? Obviously not. However, it also means it shouldn't have been flopped for being woke and called a dumpster fire of a movie. That's why I incorrectly assumed if it's at least pretty good, it should be worth doing 300 millions. It wasn't flopped from better than the original Supergirl Helen Slater movie, and I think better than the DCEU Flash movie, featuring the character quite a bit. The strangest phenomenon out of this? It wasn't flopped from people who saw it and trashed it. The movie was flopped from labels it didn't earn. It was suppressed from turnout for every woke accusation in the book of grifting. Even if you want to say Millie Alcock politically alienated fans, that's not true either. She has a right to defend herself. It was never similar to Rachel Zegler, who dumped on the Snow White movie and called the prince a stalker. Millie just literally found it ironic that men with Christian family profiles were attacking her looks and saying the most disgusting things, as that's acting anything but faith-based. She also didn't insult the lore of the character. She spoke quite well on it. The forced association to Zegler just shows that weak-minded people were told what to think by the anti-woke grifter crew who never legitimately could have reviewed it, as their hate and decision on movie was previous to ever seeing it. The movie also did well to include Superman and Lobo scenes that captured the essence of their characters quite well. David Corran Sweat just has the Reeve-like portrayal while looking like his own Superman still. Jason Momoa was quite good as Lobo. The stills ahead of the movie didn't actually do justice to how well they nailed his look. His attitude was pretty spot on, and he was as perfect for the role as fans could expect. I do agree with him though, if Lobo were to get his own project, it has to go R-rated. Not just the language, but in terms of how much they can do with gore in action matching the comics. If you can get a bit of a Deadpool tone done right, I think with a decent budget, there's no reason we couldn't get a profitable lead movie by the character. Seeing both DC's Supergirl and Masters of the Universe get decent word of mouth on streaming is revealing to the audience mindset. At this point, it feels like a huge chunk of moviegoers don't actually decide for themselves anymore. They wait for the internet to hand them an opinion. Opening weekend is dominated by rage-bait thumbnails, culture war hot takes, review bombing, and people who've already decided a movie is either woke garbage or saving cinema before they've even bought a ticket. Then the movie lands on streaming, people finally watch it with all the noise stripped away, and suddenly it's, wait, this is actually pretty good. No kidding. Maybe stop outsourcing your opinions to YouTubers and engagement farmers whose entire business model depends on convincing you every blockbuster is either the end of Hollywood or a political manifesto. Watch the movie, form your own opinion, because this cycle of decent films bombing theatrically only to become hidden gems a month later is getting old. Maybe somehow it will backfire on grifters and the audience will go, I was wrong to believe this was woke, so next time I'm seeing the movie for myself first. All is not lost from Supergirl flopping though. Millie was great, and in future appearances as a supporting character will shine. Plus, since James Gunn is opening up the tonal sphere of the DCU, We still have potential hits right before Man of Tomorrow. In terms of what's next for James Gunn's new DC Studios, Lanterns is premiering on HBO Max in just a few weeks. We don't know exactly when we'll see Supergirl herself again, but there's a strong chance she plays some role in next year's Superman sequel, Man of Tomorrow. On the comic side of things, DC just revealed a spread of new next-level titles at San Diego Comic-Con. Clayface in the horror genre should bring legitimacy as well. Also, while the Reeves Batman sequel is Elseworlds, behind the scenes, James Gunn is actually getting organizational credit for getting that movie along and not ending up cancelled. All the Snyder Channel rage bait videos saying he'd have it cancelled were flat out wrong. He will earn part of the win if the Batman sequel succeeds. If it works out with Lobo, that could be an incoming game changer as well for the verse. The DCU is just starting, and it is developing on a pretty wide scope, really. So what do you guys think of the article, and any thoughts on the future of Lobo and the DCU in general? Let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe, and remember, no Snyderverse, no problem.